Have you at any time busted out with the Donald Trump dance? Because I was just doing it to a little safety dance by Men Without Hats because the 80s are back. It's going to be great.
Yeah, I don't. I mean, I dance on occasion with my wife, but no politician dances for me.
Well, you can dance if you want to. You can leave your friends behind. But if you don't dance, you're no friend of mine. So just putting that out there. David, let's go down the list of nominations because I got to say, a lot of them are pretty amazing. What do you think of Marco Rubio, Secretary of State?
Well, listen, I mean, Marco Rubio has been steeped in foreign policy for quite some time. It's an area, it's an issue of interest for him, and so it's not the sort of pick that raises eyebrows, put it that way.
Which itself raises eyebrows. I was a little surprised not to see loyalist Rick Grinnell, who is a friend of the program and a personal friend of mine. I didn't see him picked. He seems much more the MAGA choice. Marco Rubio seems a little more establishment on foreign policy than we might have expected with Trump. What do you think was the story there?
Well, I mean, yeah, it's true that Marco Rubio is a little bit more of a traditional Republican when it comes to his foreign policy thinking, but his domestic views have shifted, and there's nothing Trump likes more than a convert. And when I interviewed Trump for my book some years back, I asked him about Marco Rubio, and he was going on and on about he defends him on the Russia investigation, how he had defended him on that. And I will say, between if the word is loyalist or purist, whatever word you want to use, and a convert, Trump will probably pick the convert 9 times out of 10.
Interesting, and I think it's fair to say Marco Rubio is not going to have any trouble getting confirmed.
No trouble getting confirmed there.
Okay, let's go to a little more controversial choice. Pete Hegseth as Secretary of Defense. What are you hearing about that?
Well, listen, I mean, I think when you look at the balance of Hegseth's military record, I would expect him to have an easier time getting confirmed than people might expect right out of the gate. However, it is possible, as it is always possible with these nominees, that the weight of information that comes out about, whether it's his personal life or his business life or things like that, could end up sinking the nomination before he gets a vote. There are some traditional Republicans, for instance, Mike Gallagher, former Wisconsin congressman. Nobody would accuse of being a Trump-style Republican on foreign policy who has praised Hegseth. There are others that are concerned that he's never managed something like the Pentagon before and are sort of a little concerned about his foreign policy priorities. In other words, where he's put his military priorities versus not. And some people are just annoyed or not thrilled at the idea of plucking somebody for this kind of a job straight from television, even though he has a military background and he is a combat veteran. So I'm in a sort of wait and see mode with Pete Hegseth.
Well, let me throw this out there. Like Pete Hegseth, I was a field grade infantry officer. I wrote about it at Town Hall yesterday in my column. My thought is that Donald Trump appointed Pete Hegseth not to be a manager, not to be a green eye shades guy like a Robert McNamara, who was famously managerial and famously terrible, but as a leader, as a guy to go in, not focus on the details, but to apply boot to buttocks to get this military moving again, because the military is in terrible shape. And as Napoleon said, the moral to the physical is 10-1. The other thing I see is there have been some accusations out there in the regime media about Pete Hegseth's personal life, and they have been met with a shrug by Republicans. Republicans are just like, I just don't care. What do you think of those points?
Well, listen, I think that a good Secretary of Defense probably should be able to do a lot of those things, right? They should be able to lead, they should understand military strategy, and they should be able to manage, because you're dealing with weapon systems and a lot of moving parts. And look, we've got a really big military with a lot of responsibilities, and that's probably what you would hear from some Republicans. And they're going to have 53 votes. And I think the question is, can they, you know, can they lose? They can lose 3, but they can't lose 4. And then there's a question of recess appointments, but do you want to recess appoint somebody of that caliber?